What's going on, folks? Adrian here. Welcome back to the channel for another massive weekend MMO news drop filled with a mix of newly revealed MMORPGs and existing ones. So let's not waste any time and get straight to the good stuff, beginning with the newly announced Corepunk. Developed by Dutch studio Artificial Core, Corepunk is a top-down MMORPG that screams influences from Diablo, Torchlight, and Ultima Online, and from the official trailer, it just oozes with cyberpunk fantasy vibes. The game will feature a seamless open world with PvE and PvP both available. For PvE, there's going to be instance dungeons, content for solo or groups, branching quests, and alternate endings to the campaign, which means there's some replayability there, and hopefully the gameplay loop is excellent for multiple runs. As for its MMORPG offering, Corepunk will have fully decked out towns, a full in-game economy, and opportunities to grow with its crafting system, player trade activities, and a lot more. Activities in Corepunk utilizes a rating system, which incentivizes players to diversify how they play from time to time. One cool feature of Corepunk is the Fog of War system, which will factor heavily into the game's combat, and it will be interesting for PvP gameplay. Speaking of combat, the game will have classic MMORPG class roles like tanks and healers, and while there are no class details yet, the FAQ states that character customization will be flexible. No word on payment model too, but the studio says it's heavily against pay to win, so it does sound like a buy-to-play game, folks. And finally, if you are wondering when you'll get to play it, the bad news is the game is looking at a Q4 2020 date for its open beta, so we've got a long ways to go. Anyway, link to the website is down below if you want to browse the forums or sign up for the beta. Now on to the Game Awards 2019 announcements, and to my surprise, MMORPGs had a lot more presence this year with 2 reveals and more, so let's go over what was announced, starting with new games. First up, Amazon had a surprise announcement at the Game Awards and showed off a brand new trailer for its upcoming MMO New World, which remember, had an alpha test earlier this year and went radio silent shortly after. The trailer does say pre-orders are now available and it will be released come May 2020, which is good news. You'll note too that they've dropped the word survival MMO from all their pressers and are now going with the history meets magic pure MMORPG, so I would expect some massive changes from what we got to see during the alpha test. Some were speculating too that New World and its development team would fold, with news emerging shortly after New World's alpha that Amazon would be taking over the development of the new Lord of the Rings MMORPG from Athlon Games, hence the concerns about New World. But it's good to know that New World was in fact still being worked on and that we'll get to see both games in the future. And then we got the official cinematic trailer for Perfect World and Cryptic Studios' Magic the Gathering MMO, known as Magic Legends. Now, we've known for a while that this has been in development, and it appears we're getting closer to seeing the game in a playable state. The game will be free to play like other cryptic MMOs such as Neverwinter and Star Trek Online, so microtransactions are a given, you'd think. Players take on the role of a planeswalker, and you'll explore amazing worlds, combat powerful creatures, and meet the legendary beings that shape the fate of the multiverse. As a former MTG player with a decent collection myself, I'm quite excited for this, but don't have my expectations set that high, because it's Perfect World and Cryptic running the show. As of right now, the official website has gone live, and you can sign up for the beta over there. I'll post links in the pinned comment down below. The Elder Scrolls Online showed off the final cinematic trailer for its Dragonhold DLC at the Game Awards as well, and they have also revealed where we'll be going to in Tamriel next come 2020, and it looks like Skyrim in that final bit, with the title Dark Heart of Skyrim. I wonder what's that all about. ZeniMax will have the full season reveal early next year with the event, so stay tuned for that, I will cover it. Elsewhere for ESO, unfortunate news about the Undaunted event, as ZeniMax have decided to delay the event until next January, but players will still be able to stock up on additional event tickets. During the upcoming New Life Festival, any boss kill in-game will reward you with 3 extra tickets, which means you can earn up to 5 total tickets per day. Final Fantasy XIV is up next, and it was nominated for a few categories during the Game Awards show, and in my opinion deserved to win at least Best Ongoing Game, which eventually went to Fortnite, but anyway, because it's the award season, Square Enix have once again put its catalog on sale at 50% off. From now until the 16th, you can get all versions of the Shadowbringers expansion and the full Final Fantasy XIV Complete Edition at half price from the Square Enix store. which again is fantastic for new players if you missed the previous sale during Black Friday. These are for all platforms too, so no worries there. Elsewhere in Eorzea, the Starlight Celebration begins on the 18th and will run until the 31st, featuring new quests, Christmas-themed rewards like the Mount Barding, and more, so log in when it starts to snap them up. Onward to WoW Classic, and PvPers, it's time to sound the horns of war for your factions because Battlegrounds are now live. This week, Warsong Gulch and Alterac Valley have arrived, offering folks a 10 vs 10 capture the flag mode or a 40v40 grudge match to jump into, just like how you remembered it all those years ago. Players can queue for Warsong Gulch as early as level 10, while Alterac Valley requires you to be at least level 51. In Guild Wars 2, ArenaNet confirmed that the WINTERSDAY Festival will be arriving on the 17th, running until January 7th. Toymaster Tix returns, as does the Wondrous Workshop, so expect the same activities to do and hopefully new rewards to earn over the holiday season, so go make some gold. Over in the Black Desert franchise, Black Desert Mobile launched globally this week, and you can watch my impressions video in the top right card or link below. Besides that, all versions have celebration events in-game of some sort. Most notably, BDO is celebrating its 5th year anniversary this month with a login event, and the rewards may differ regionally. In addition to Succession skills arriving for the Valkyrie and Tamer classes this week, the Holiday of Fortunes event is also live, and players will earn items like outfits, pets, and some boosts by simply logging in daily and completing quests. Happy 5th year anniversary, BDO! Meanwhile, more details are emerging about Prolobis's upcoming MMORPG, Crimson Desert, and this piece comes courtesy of IGN's interview with the studio. Sharing a few final screenshots of the main character, we learned that the lead character's name is Macduff, a leader of a ragtag band of mercenaries, and the game's main story campaign will revolve around the stories of these characters. It's very much an MMORPG due to the gameplay and systems it will have, but Prolobis assures players that the story campaign will be a uniquely single-player experience with co-op being optional, and they're really zooming in on that story focus, which again, as I said last week, is something Prolobis doesn't usually do. Looking at these screenshots, I can't help but be reminded of Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, and that's cool. I'll post a full interview down below, and timelines haven't changed. We're still expecting the Crimson Desert beta sometime in 2020. In a curious case of deja vu, Mortal Online 2 has been announced this week, again after technically being announced earlier this year. Well, this time it's official as Star Vault's latest press release comes alongside the website launch and Steam store listing. Mortal Online 2 is a sandbox MMORPG, a sequel to the first game, and it will feature first-person gameplay in a large sandbox world with full PvP and full loot on death. Not for the casual PvE player, the game has no classes or levels and uses an open-ended skill system where you gain points and skills by simply using them. You only get one character slot, which is interesting, but it does make sense considering your character can horizontally progress through any skill of choice, making alt characters redundant. Expect in-depth crafting systems and large-scale guild PvP, which takes place in a huge 400 square kilometer world rendered on the Unreal Engine 4. The game is set to hold an alpha sometime in Q2 2020 and will enter early access later in the year. On to some unfortunate news now involving ASTELLIA Online, the South Korean OG version of ASTELLIA, which launched in the West recently. Massively reports that Nexon will be shutting the game down in South Korea, with the last day being January 16th, 2020. Baradhor and ENA, who are the original developers of ASTELLIA, and who is self-publishing the Western version, hasn't released a statement regarding the matter or the future of the Western version at time of recording this, but the game is expected to continue on, and if there's any updates, I will let you guys know. If there's anyone here that still plays Rift, here's something for you. In a very recent Facebook post, whoever's running the page has confirmed to players that the game won't release any new expansions moving forward. However, that doesn't mean there won't be new content. It appears Rift will be doing what most modern MMOs today do, especially those made in the East, where content rolls out in a simple update format without sticking to a usual quarterly release schedule or an expansion cycle like what the top 1% of MMOs do. While that's comforting to know that content isn't off the menu entirely, there has been no indication on whether or not there's anything new right now that's coming to Rift in the foreseeable future. Rumor time! Videogamer.com shared some inside scoop via Reddit that Daybreak Games was apparently working on a Marvel MMORPG between late 2017 and 2018 before the mass layoffs happened that impacted a large portion of the workforce, especially from the PlanetSide dev teams. Proof comes from former developers and visual artists who have worked on the concept art of the game, and Reddit have traced the project back to when job postings first appeared on LinkedIn, where Daybreak were looking for MMORPG experienced developers to work on a hugely global IP. This supposedly new Marvel MMORPG appears to be based around the Avengers and the story of the Infinity Gauntlet with multiple classes, abilities, and gear all planned out. Safe to say this is not going to see the light of day, and since Daybreak never announced this, it's hard to say if this was actually a thing. It would be interesting though if they had announced it at the time, since Daybreak also runs DC Universe Online, its direct competitor in the comic book / superhero world. I wonder how that would have turned out. Oh well. Also, Marvel heroes, you are missed. Another new MMORPG to talk about now, and it's called TEMTEM, a creature collecting MMORPG inspired by Pokemon, made by developers Crema, and it will be published by Humble Bundle at release. First announced last year with a Kickstarter campaign that was successful in raising over $500,000, this indie MMORPG has announced this week that it will enter early access on January 21st, 2020. If cutesy monster collecting games are your thing, you can already wishlist the game on Steam and Humble Bundle to prepare for the early access, and the game will feature a main campaign, co-op gameplay, PvP battles, a breeding system, and player housing among other features. You can also sign up right now for a chance to enter any stress tests the game will have between now and the early access. Moving on to anime MMORPG NOSTALE for those who still play it. The biggest update in years for the game has arrived this week, called Act 7, The Orcs and the Celestial Spire, featuring new island maps, monsters, quests, and the new rune system to further customize your character's gear. Players above champion level 10 can depart for the Mauritius Island to explore 17 new maps and get sucked into the new stories and quests. Expect new passive skills and gear to earn and craft, which will come in handy if you plan to face the 3 brand new raids available for players level 90 and up. Act 7 consists of 2 parts, with the first already out, while the second part arrives early next year. Let's wrap this up with a piece of mobile MMO news coming from Nexon's Spirit Wish. The game has been updated this week with free content, featuring the new spirit system in which players can summon spirits in battle from an ongoing event dungeon, in addition to 2 new fresh heroes, the Barbarian and Monk, enlisting to join your team if you want them. The Christmas event has gone live alongside new hero quests, so if you play Spirit Wish, you'll have plenty to do. For those that don't know what this is, Spirit Wish is an MMO in which you command a team of heroes through the game's main story and will need to utilize its multi-character RPG combat mechanics in battle to triumph. And that's all I've got, folks. Stay tuned for another video that breaks down all the newly announced MMORPGs pretty soon. I'm looking forward to that one. So in the meantime, if there's news for a game that you play which is not covered here in this video, share it with us in the comments and check out last weekend's news drop to catch up on what you've missed. Hit the like button because you can, and hey, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It's free and lets you know when it's time to get your next dose of MMO news. Once again, I'm Adrian, and I thank you for watching.